Alright.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alex Morak, and tonight I'll be talking to you about Ben Hogan's famous one-iron picture. It was once said by Lee Trevino, "Not even God can hit a one-iron." I'd like to begin tonight by giving you a little background history on who Ben Hogan was and where he came from. After doing a little research, I found that Ben Hogan was born on August 12th in 1913 in Stephenville, Texas, according to James Dodson's Ben Hogan in American Life. It was thought that Ben Hogan had a very rough childhood, everything from moving around from place to place to the most extreme circumstance of his father actually committing suicide right in front of him. After this tragedy, Hogan's family suffered financially, and it forced him, along with his siblings, all to get jobs. So Hogan first started off as a newspaper boy, and in 1923, a tip from a friend actually led him to become a local caddy at the golf club down the street, Glen Garden. After having a bit of an amateur career and developing his game, Hogan would compete in some more amateur events and actually win. In 1930, he would turn pro, and that was his senior year of high school. After turning pro, Hogan struggled a little bit. He didn't have his first win until actually 10 years after he turned pro in March of 1940. However, after his first win, his career is about to take off. Continuing on, as I had previously alluded to, Hogan's career is about to take flight. After his first win, he would have 42 wins in the next coming 8 years. And there seemed to be nothing but a bright future for Ben. However, on February 2nd, 1949, Hogan, driving his wife Valerie home on one foggy morning, got into a car wreck collided with a Greyhound bus on a bridge near Van Horn, Texas. Among the damage, there was obviously car damage, but in addition to that, Hogan suffered from a double fractured pelvis, a fractured collarbone, a fractured left wrist, a chipped rib, and most dangerous were the near-fatal blood clots. The doctors told Hogan he would never walk again, let alone ever play golf. As stubborn-minded as he was, Hogan didn't believe this for a moment. And in 7 months, he had recovered enough to where he could walk again and play golf. So in November of 1949, Hogan was back out on the golf course walking and playing golf. It would take him a full 16 months, though, to fully recover. However, there would never be an end-all, cure-all for his circulation problems. After his recovery and return to golf, it would not be until June of 1950 that Hogan would actually return to professional golf, and that would be at the United States Open. The United States Open is one of 4 majors competed at every year. It was one of the 4 majors all professionals go and compete at. The U.S. Open is known for having one of the toughest fields, as well as being played on one of the toughest courses. In 1950, the U.S. Open was being played at Marion Golf Club in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Marion that year was in perfect condition. That is, it was playing much harder and much faster than the typical PGA Tour course. In addition to that, Marion is playing at 6,649 yards. In today's terms, with accounting for today's technology and everything and equipment changes, that's the equivalent of the pros playing an 8,149 yard course, which is outrageous, absolutely ridiculous. Marion would also live up to its nature or its difficult nature that week, sending home quite a few big names. Among those big names were 2 previous U.S. Open champions, Tommy Armour, who won in 1921, and Craig Wood, who won in 1941. In contrast to those who suffered, Ben Hogan obviously did just fine, finishing the first 2 days at a combined score of 1 over par. That brings me to the final round of the U.S. Open, and more importantly, Ben Hogan's famous one-iron picture. On the final day, June 11, 1950, all those players remaining were required to come back to the course and play 36 holes in the sweltering heat. Hogan continued to do well that day, keeping his name near the top of the leaderboard throughout the entire day. Coming into 18, Hogan knew he had to make par in order to force a playoff at 7 over par. After hitting his ball right down the middle of the fairway, there seemed to be no pressure on him. However, there was a tremendous amount of pressure on him. Not only did he know where he stood and that he had to make par in order to force a playoff, but his second shot required him to hit a one-iron. Referring back to the quote I said earlier, Lee Trevino, another former professional golfer, was once struck by lightning, and afterwards a news reporter asked him how to avoid such a fate. Lee replied with, "Simply stand in the middle of the fairway and hold up a one-iron. Even God can't hit a one-iron." Despite all this, Hogan proved to us why he would later become known as one of the greatest ball strikers of all time, hitting his ball right in the middle of the green. It would take him 2 more putts to finish out. That was all he needed, though, to force the playoff. The following day, Ben Hogan, along with George Fazio and Lloyd Mangrum, would return for an 18-hole playoff. During this entire playoff, they'd be neck and neck, even coming down to the final stretch. In the last 5 holes, all 3 players were within 1 stroke of each other. In the end, however, Ben would obviously trump both of his competitors, beating Mangrum by 6 strokes and George Fazio by 4 strokes. In closing, I would like to reflect back on some of the events that are behind this famous picture. I started off by telling you a little bit about where Ben Hogan came from and who he was. I then talked about the car accident that nearly ended Hogan's career forever. Next, I told you about his recovery and his comeback to the game. And finally, I told you about the U.S. Open and all the drama and excitement behind what would be Hogan's 2nd U.S. Open win and 4th major victory. I will now open up the floor for any questions that you may have. Anybody have a question?
Was Hogan's win at the U.S. Open that you talked about his most significant victory of all the wins that he had in his career?
Yes, and the reason I'll say that is because obviously this really is one of the most famous pictures in golf, and it's because of the story behind it. It's not just because of who it was, and Ben Hogan was obviously a legend in the game. He's one of the 4 biggest names in golf, among Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, and Tiger Woods, so 5 names. But it's the story behind it. It's the fact that he got into that near-fatal car wreck, and the doctors told him he would never again play golf. And it's the fact that he came back, and it was just 16 months after that. 16 months, which is not even a year and a half. And came back and would win a major championship. Now, it wasn't just a PGA Tour, it was a major championship. Anyone else?
How many years did Ben Hogan play golf after that event before he retired?
He would play all the way until about 1963 is when he retired from golf. And then he just went and settled down with his wife. One more question? Anyone? No? Okay. Oh, I gotta show y'all one more time.